I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m., we check in with our friends at the Blacklock's Reporter, the only reporter-owned and operated newsroom covering our nation's capital. I strongly encourage you to check it out at blacklocks.ca. A subscription there is well worth the effort because few mind Ottawa's business like the Blacklock's Reporter. Tom Korski is the managing editor there, joins us for these weekly chats. Tom, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
We just talked about the Air Canada settlement on the show, and I have to wonder if at any point during this dispute, however short it may have been, anything besides labor unrest was at stake here. I mean, organ transplants, were they at risk during the Air Canada strike?
Labour Minister Haidu said that to reporters. She said this was a matter of public safety, and told reporters in seeking to justify what is arguably a legal mechanism to quash strike rights, Section 107 of the Canada Labour Code. Feds have used this 8 times in the last year, 8 times in a year, against Teamster rail workers, flight attendants, famously WestJet mechanics, you name it. And this is pending in federal court, and there are rational lawyers for trade unions who have said this is simply unconstitutional. But Patty Haidu needed some justification, and she came up with, forgive me, a cockamamie story that somehow there were organ transplant patients who were at death's door awaiting transplants that were going to be disrupted because of those greedy flight attendants. The Labour Department has done this before, Mike. In their 2021, there was a strike at the Port of Montreal by longshore workers. And in the day, the Labour Department said, they literally told the House of Commons, this, I quote them, this was a matter of life and death, and they had to put an end to that lawful strike because of life-saving COVID medication that was tied up at the dock. Problem, there wasn't any. They didn't ship vaccines by freighter from Europe. It's not 1945. And we saw through access to information that shippers' main worry was spoiled fruit. I'm sorry to say this, the Federal Labor Department has this track record of deliberately misleading people with these harem-scarum stories to justify their directions against unions. It's inexplicable.
And of course, Tom, you would put the inquiry to Ms. Haidu as to to corroborate this claim that organ transplants were at risk. Does she have anything to say about it?
No comment. So we filed 10 minutes later an access to information request, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. I think I have a pretty good idea of what it says, and it says, this is speculative, but informed speculation, Mike. I think it says a couple of political aides sat around the office and dreamed up scare stories about what would the possible nightmare be from a flight attendant strike, and they came up with Timmy, the boy in the hospital who's waiting for his transplant, and doggone it, those flight attendants, they just care about themselves. My goodness, these people are cynical.
Tom, speaking of getting to the bottom of it, kudos to Blacklock's Reporter for getting to the bottom of what I could only describe as a snub of former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney by Parks Canada.
Sure it was. The agency has a board. It's called the Historic Sites and Monuments Board. And they meet, interestingly, in secret. They meet behind closed doors to designate historic places. You get a plaque or national historic persons. And Brian Mulroney died in February last year. And their next meeting of the board, the Historic Sites and Monuments Board, was in June. And they decided they were not going to issue any public recognition of a 2-term prime minister as a national historic person. And more importantly, they were going to change the rules. And the rule was going to be, we're not going to recognize a former prime minister till 25 years after death. To recap, they literally changed the rules. Rather than issuing even a pro forma statement to honor this man, who was the last prime minister, by the way, to get 50% of the popular vote. It may never happen again. We reported that, and they changed their mind, hurriedly issued a backdated recognition. But it always reminds me, Mike, I used to have a friend from Saskatchewan, and he spent a winter in Ottawa, and you say, well, what'd you think? And he said, it's a little bit like Regina, only smaller. If you get my meaning.
I get your meaning, Korski. I get your meaning. All right. Many workplaces are familiar with the idea of some, team building exercises and an opportunity for coworkers to get together outside the workplace. The company often picks up the tab for such things. How do managers at Immigration Canada spend some company time?
Well, tomorrow, in fact, is going to be a big day at the department. It's Sexy Drag Time show on company time, on taxpayer time. They wouldn't tell us the cost. This is LGBTQ Pride Week, and the Department of Immigration sent around an internal email to staff saying in celebration of this observance, they were going to have a sexy drag show, drag bingo episode. It's going to take up much of the afternoon tomorrow. What's going to happen? Well, let's see. There's going to be a sexy drag rock star. I'm reading from the staff memo. There's going to be a roller skating disco diva. Bring your lucky charms, your loudest cheers, and your best bingo face. It's going to be an event to remember! Exclamation point. And you get to pay for it. So God bless your heart. They wouldn't tell us how much.
But, Tom, what will you use for a dabber? I need to know.
I don't...
Inquiring minds, Tom.
That was bingo at the old Catholic Hall. Even bingo has evolved, Mike.
It certainly has. Tom, always appreciate the work you do and the time you give us on the show. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Tom Korski is the managing editor of the Blacklock's Reporter, the only reporter-owned and operated newsroom covering the capital with neither politics nor punditry. You can get a subscription for yourself by visiting blacklocks.ca, minding Ottawa's business every Wednesday morning at 10 here on the Mike Farwell Show. We're going to take a break. When we come back, a video that I posted on our Facebook page a couple of weeks ago. If you want to check it out, facebook.com/The Mike Farwell Show. See it for yourself. It was just something that caught my attention because it was so odd. It was a little electric vehicle on a multi-use trail going along Shantz Hill, the base of Shantz Hill, along King Fountain into King into Preston. And I thought, what kind of vehicle is this? And what is it doing on that trail? Well, some of you pointed out to me, this is a mobility device. But is it? Barrier-Free Cambridge isn't convinced. We'll try to get to the bottom of it right after this on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.